Hello everyone, I'm Jerry Goodspeed with the Garden Guys and Gal, and today I'm with Mike Kilcrease. I'm going to have to excuse JD and Sheridan. Sheridan's sick today, and JD's teaching a class. So Cody is here though. So Cody and I are going to hold down the forts, and I've got Mike Kilcrease with me here. Mike's our water specialist here at the Botanical Center. And I've invited Mike to come talk a little bit about some irrigation, answer some questions that you might have about irrigation, specifically about flipping a strip, or answering questions kind of overall about irrigation and how it works. And what are you doing, Cody?
You can see the microphone.
Oh, okay. So if we, can you just hang it there or something, or? All right, we'll keep talking. So talk about just answer some questions about irrigation. It's been a drought year. It's been kind of a weird year. Mike here has cut our irrigation at the Botanical Center by about 50%. And when I look around, I can see it, but I'm not worried about it. We've had some priorities on our trees. And I'm surprised at how good the place looks for you haven't cut the water by 50%.
No, it looks great. It's everything staying alive, and that's what the goal is, just to keep everything alive for now and deal with it when the weather changes. Actually.
Yeah, and that's kind of, we talked about it clear back in March. Okay, we're going to have problems. Let's just keep everything alive. We're in the survival mode as opposed to the years where we've talked about how do we get it to thrive and look good. And this year is more of the let's keep it alive.
Yellow's okay.
Yeah,
that's
yellow's
sure
okay.
Yellow's all right.
We've even got some brown, and we're even okay with some of the brown.
Well, we're fine with that too.
Okay, let's talk. So, what I wanted to do was, we're going to talk about what exists under the ground. What a lot of people don't know what your sprinklers look like, and then how do I, if I wanted to go to a drip system, or if I wanted to, because a lot of people, you're hearing this big pressure, and here in Utah, our governor just said they're looking at some ways to incentivize people to what they call flip the strip. Thank you, and take out the turf, and put in some water-wise plants, if you will. And so most people, well, go ahead and explain what they have here. Now, and if I hit you in the head and knock you out,
I was going to say, better watch this here.
If your nose is bleeding after I hit you, you carry on, man, because I can't.
All right, this is pretty much standard of what you'd have underground in your valve box. This is 1 inch. This is just an example of 1 inch. You just got your 1 inch valve solenoid that's going to run to your sprinkler box, and then just out to your lines. And this is obviously just an example running up to your first head. And this is generally how they'd be. This is PVC. A lot of people have poly, and that'd just be a different connection. It's all the same though. Everything's the same, just different connections. Runs up, you can see going right up into your sprinkler.
So normally this would run out to have maybe 10 sprinklers
10
on
or so, yeah, depending on your zones. And then this is obviously just a small 4-inch pop-up. There's several different kinds of sprinkler heads you can have on there. So
sometimes it's the impact heads.
Yeah, you can have the impacts, the rotors, there's several different kinds you could have. So.
Pretty basic.
Yep, this is just your basic
valve
out to your line, funny pipe right up to the head, and whichever kind of nozzle you've got on it.
Okay, so now I want to change it, so I want to put a drip system on it.
Okay.
Save some water.
Save some water. So the biggest thing, the most important thing with drip, all drip, especially if you have secondary, most importantly if you have secondary water, your filter has to be good. And if you have secondary water, you've got a filter anyways. It's in the ground. It's probably close to where your water comes in your park strip somewhere, or just barely on your property line. And it's a filter. It's usually pointed the wrong way. Actually, it's pointed up when it should be pointed down. But either way, you should have a good filter. Check that first of the year. Check it throughout the year too, on your drip, because you have tiny emitters. Once you do switch over, these emitters are so small
it's
that
like
it doesn't
pin.
take much. Yeah.
Somebody just stuck a pin in.
You can't really see them, but they are. They're just a couple pinholes. They only let out, this one in particular here is 0.9 gallons an hour. So
wow.
It's not much. That's tiny. So back to that. So filter. So you can see we've got the same thing.
So you didn't change anything here.
Nope.
You still have the exact same.
Yep. Your same valve.
Valve.
Everything from
Look,
your manifold
exact
back,
same thing.
Exactly the same.
Okay.
So you would have to, obviously you're going to have to dig in a little bit, but you're only going to extend or have to do any cutting or redoing of any of this just in this little small section here. So this one here is a reducer and a filter. So you should have your filter anyway, like I mentioned before, but this extra little filter helps. And so this will reduce your pressure down, because maybe I should back up a little bit with your pressure. To have drip, you have to have at least 40 psi or lower.
And most of us are at about 80.
Yeah,
probably.
I was going to say. So this is where the reducer comes in. The reducer is the most important with the filter. So that'll reduce it down so you're not blowing nozzles off, because there's lots of different kinds of drip. You can have those small micro emitters like we have in our arboretum. You can have just direct to the plant where they just have the spaghetti tube. And if you have that high pressure still, you'll blow those tips off.
And we have done that many times.
We know that here. We spend lots of good thing they're colored blue, bright blue,
so we can find them.
Yes. So you have to get your pressure down to at least 40, and make sure it's filtered.
So you can just buy this. This is just a reducer and a filter, all in one. Easy to do.
And and this one yep, it does say on it. And this reduces down to 40.
Perfect.
And they all should say. I've seen them as low as 25, but 40 is pretty standard.
40 we've had pretty good luck with,
pretty
right?
Standard.
Or you have had
Yep.
pretty good luck with.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
So that's your first.
And how often are you going to be cleaning this filter anyway?
I would clean them, especially if obviously when you're on secondary, you're going to get a lot more gunk, and you're going to get all the sediment, and you're going to get all of that coming through. I clean ours here at the Botanical Center. We go through it like once a week, and our above ground filters, and we'll just blow them out really quick. Something underground like this, I'd definitely do it the first of the year, maybe midsummer, and then right at the end of the year when you're blowing your system out.
Okay. That's not bad.
No. Very, very easy on maintenance. So running down the line, obviously this is the same thing. We would go down.
So I just dug in next to the box. I put this in. Haven't done anything else the rest of the way.
So now you'd have to determine what the area is, and because with your sprinklers, they're going to be spaced for every head to head,
every 15 feet or 20 feet, whatever.
Yeah, whatever your nozzle is going to be, that's where they're going to be. So with your drip, you can start eliminating heads, because you can run up to 130, I think, 140 feet off of one line of drip and one filter.
So all you did was just take off this head.
Yeah.
You just took off the head.
You just took
and put on a line.
Yep.
That was it.
That was all you have to do. Is you'll just so this be buried underground. Dig up close, unscrew it, just threads on, and then
you just screwed this on.
And then you're actually on these ones we have other kind. On this one you'd snip it here, and then you would just
I got it.
And then this is, I probably can't get it out, but it's just a barbed fitting.
You just push it on.
Push it right on, and then
that's it.
That's it.
And then you run that up to 100 and some odd feet.
You can get about 130, 140
and you can
feet.
wind it all around wherever
wind
you want.
Wind it around your trees, wind it through your flower beds. Because these are spaced, this one, you can get them on all different sizes. This one here is spaced 12 inches. So you can get them 18 inches. I've seen them as small as 6. And that's the spaces on the emitters, I'm sorry. From emitter to emitter. So every
12 inches you'll have a drip.
You'll have a drip.
So if you were to put it around and you had to plant every 12 inches, that would be dripping where your plant
directly
is.
into the root zone of your plant.
Oh, that is cool.
And so and then for trees, we do tree rings around a lot of our trees here at the Botanical Center. So we'll have 4 to 5.
You can actually, Cody, if you want to look, you can actually see right behind us what we do.
And you can see there on that one, that's got 2 rings. There's probably 3 emitters on the middle, 4 to 5 on the outside. So you're getting quite a bit of water on that really concentrated area where you want the water, right on the root zone.
Sweet. So are there other, you had mentioned that there are other types of drip systems.
Yes. So as soon as you get your filter and your reducer in, and then you can really do anything, because you're eliminating a bunch of heads. All of your heads essentially. And then you're just going into these fittings like this. And then this inline drip, and then they have just the tube, which would be just very similar without the emitters, obviously. And then that's where you could come in and where you would go direct to the plant. They have just little barbed fittings. You push them in, little spaghetti tube goes directly to the plant.
So if you just wanted, say you had 20 perennials along your park strip, you could just run
exactly
from you could just run from each head 2 or 3 right to the plants.
Yep, exactly. You come
And then
out,
you'd only be watering
just
that
watering
plant.
that plant. Saves on water, obviously. That's what we're talking about the most. Saves on weeding. That's
I was
a
going to say, the
huge,
big
huge
thing
deal,
is also
huge
weeding.
deal. Yeah, you're not going to get those weeds in between all your plants. It's all around much better.
And if you put a mulch down, I'm guessing that's even better.
Yeah, then you can saturate your whole soil. It'll hold the moisture in really well. That's one kind of direct. I mentioned before we have micro emitters, so we'll have same thing. We'll have our drip tube come up, and on a little stake, it's almost the same thing that I mentioned before. We'll have a little stake, and then just the drip tube will come up, and then we'll just screw a little tiny micro emitter, is what they're called. And they come in different adjustments as far as you can do a 90 degree, a 180.
So it'll just kind of spray.
Yep.
So instead of just dripping, it actually has a little spray of an area.
Yep, it'll have a small spray zone, just like a big sprinkler head like this would be. That's the same thing, just on a tiny level. So where you're keeping it low, again, to the root zone, you're out of the wind a little bit, and you're getting it right to where you want.
It's low, it's bigger drops.
Yep, bigger drops on it. So yeah, you're getting direct. So there's tons and tons. There's all kinds of different kinds of getting drip to the root zone of the plants. There's lots more options rather than just throwing overhead water on everything.
Go ahead.
This is Cody from behind the camera. But I was just going to say a lot of these parts you can pick up at like your local like sprinkler supply stores.
Absolutely.
Things like that. It's relatively inexpensive.
Even big box stores have lots of this stuff. All the sprinkler stores will have all of this. This is really easy to get. Really
And you can probably go in there. I don't know this, but my guess is you can go in and say I'm flipping my strip.
Absolutely.
What do I need?
Absolutely, and especially now we're talking about this so much. The sprinkler shops, they know what we're talking about. They know what we need, and so they'll have a lot of this stuff on hand ready.
Well, that is cool. I know that we've moved. Of course, I haven't had turf in my strip for quite a while. I've got thyme right now in it, and I love it. I don't have to mow it. I don't waste much water on it, so it has been. And if you come down here to the Botanical Center, Sheridan has done a flip the strip demonstration where she shows the water usage on all different types
12 different plots.
Yeah.
She even demonstrates turf. So
and you and her keep track of all the water that you use,
the
the different plants and how much water they take and how beautiful. It amazes me when I look at it how pretty she's created some of those areas, and she cut the water like in 9-10% of what you would use on turf.
It's shocking,
and it's beautiful.
It's shocking to see how little water keeps that going.
There was a question, Cody.
Yeah, Megan asked, is it better to have the drip line as one connected continuous circle like the ones we showed, or is it better to have the drip line end somewhere and have the end closed off so you can push the water out in the winter?
So on that one in particular, this is just around a set of trees. So on that one, we have 6 trees that are all tied in. So as I was talking, where you would come up and replace a sprinkler head, that's kind of what we did there. You would look at that as like 6 sprinkler heads, and so we have drip around each one of those individual trees. So that's just like if you were to look underground underneath these, it would look just like this, each one individually. So to answer your question, yes, you would want to tie that off, and you would want to do something like this. This is just, they're called figure 8s, and they just, you can see how it goes on. Slide it down, and then all it does is just crimp it, and then you just push it right back over. And those are really, and we have those on some of our, on these same lines.
Yeah, you can see them right here. You can see one of them sitting right there on this tree all by itself. It's just sitting right there on the end.
And then in the wintertime, like you were saying, we'll open that up to make sure we get all of the water out of that line.
So we do have one on the end of every line.
So I guess to answer your question better, on the end of every line you should have something like this so that you can get the water out.
Someone else said, this is for you, Jerry, what type of time does Jerry recommend?
So we have 3 different types. We have elfin, we have what's called pink thyme, and we have woolly thyme. To be honest with you, I like the pink thyme the best. It tends to spread a little bit better. But Sheridan over here, I think, has elfin thyme that she's using over here, and the thing I like about thyme is the thing I don't like about thyme is it doesn't stop at the sidewalk. So I have to keep going and cutting it, which is no big deal.
No.
A couple times a summer I have to go and kind of trim it up because it does tend to creep. But that's my and I love it when it's in bloom. For about a month, it just looks spectacular. But come over and you can look at her. I believe it's elfin that she has, and it's a nice one. I'm not positive on that either. But any of those, you can go down. There's probably about 5 or 6 different thymes that would work good for that. Some people love the lemon thyme just because of the aroma. But all the thymes smell good. Who are we kidding? It's thyme. Yeah.
Okay, another question. It says, as the trees grow, do you need to keep moving the lines out to the edge of the canopy on the tree so you're covering the whole root zone?
Yeah, absolutely. On the ones that we keep showing examples, these are only 2 to 3 years old. Actually, well, 3
They're
years
5
old.
years old.
5 years
Can you
old.
believe
Boy,
that?
I'm that far behind.
Well, 4.5. They're
So yeah, you would start moving those out, and the example that we showed where they're just the circles and they're kind of tied in together, that's pretty good. But the way we've kind of done it a little bit different now, and so if you're going to do it around a tree, we would maybe cut that a little bit bigger and do something like this on the end, and then that way when that tree does get bigger, instead of having to cut that out, put couplers and fix it like that, we would just put one coupler on there and then just make your ring get bigger and bigger to follow that root zone out.
And we'll still do that.
Yeah.
We'll
do that.
We'll get them
a lot.
bigger and bigger, and we kind of designed this with that in mind, knowing what we knew then. When you put it in, you told me we're going to have to adjust this as those trees get bigger. But the other thing we did is these are crab apples, won't get huge.
Yeah.
You know, they're only going to get so big. We knew that.
We knew, what we
going
wanted.
into it that they would be okay for this area. So, yes, to answer your question. Yeah.
Also, I think to go along with that,
If you guys can hear me, I think it also changes like with shrubs and things like that too. So trees, you'll want a little bit more water, but a flower, you only need a little bit, so you won't need to go in circles.
Yeah, and then that's where it comes back to your time, how much you run your clock. You know, you'll start to know your younger trees need a lot more. Obviously, you know the shrubs in your yard, you know what they need and what they don't need. So you'll run a lot of that with your clock, really.
And that comes back to as well. Make sure that when you're planting like thyme, all of my strip is thyme because it all requires the same amount of water. Don't plant like a yucca and then a plant that may need a lot of water. Plant
in the same zone.
In the same zone.
Yeah.
Plant.
One of them's not going to get.
Yeah. Make sure that they all have very similar water requirements. You nailed it when you said on that one zone you have all the same trees, so that you know they all have the same water requirement.
Exactly.
You can water them all the same. We don't put perennials, shrubs, and trees all in one zone.
Yeah.
It's just trees. That's it.
Yeah.
And because we know that they all have that same water requirement. Yeah.
another question, is now a good time to make these changes, or is there any reason to wait until fall or spring? I would probably say the best time to make this change was yesterday.
Last year.
You know, for me, so this is my opinion is it's too hot.
It's a little warm to be digging holes.
This is me sitting in my living room in an air-conditioned house, drinking a Mountain Dew, saying, "It looks hot out there, hon. I would love to help you, but you know, I don't think there's a bad time."
No, there's not a bad time. Because this isn't a huge overhaul of your system.
No, that's a good thing.
So it's not going to you're going to shut your sprinklers off for a week. You're really not. This should be something you could do really in a day.
On a Saturday.
Yeah, you could knock this out in a day easily. So, no, I would do it anytime the gets cool in the morning, get up and start it. I mean, it really, no bad time.
That was all of our questions.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Well, any last words?
I don't think so. I think we kind of covered it all. It's pretty simple. It's like, I'm glad we got to that. It's not a huge project. It can be done.
And you can do it one station at a time,
Oh, yeah.
or one valve at a time.
Yeah,
you don't have to
redo your whole system.
Yeah,
just start slow. Start with just your trees if you can,
and,
just your park strips.
The other thing I would say is have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're worried about your plan, you know, we have a master gardeners here every Tuesday and Thursday morning.
right.
You can bring the plant in, and they can take a look at it and say, you might want to consider this or this, or you could even take it. I think you could take it probably to one of the sprinkler people and say, what do you think of this, and they could help you out as well.
Yeah.
Making that effort is what counts, and trying to reduce some of our water usage is the big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, and we hope that it gave you some ideas and helped.